to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very freaking special episode of Art of War Down Under. I am joined by the new, reigning, defending, undefeated, unconquered, all-conquering Polish national team. I am joined by Pumba, team captain of Poland, and Majson, 2IC pairings head, whatever you want to call, the shaggy one with the glasses, who is an ass kicker, as the rest of the team is, and this is going to be a very special WTC recap episode. The WTC happened the weekend just prior. This is the first time I'm recording an episode in a couple of weeks because I was in Europe, but I am very, very, very happy to be able to sit down with these two fine gentlemen, unpack the biggest, bestest, most excellent 10th edition event that has happened in the world so far, and see what went down, what worked, what didn't, and the incredible Cinderella story that is Team Poland getting their first place finish in the last 9 years. Is that correct?
That is very much correct.
What a story.
Thank you very much, Adam, for inviting us again. We've been here the previous year after the last WTC. It's good to be back with the first place finish this time.
My absolute pleasure, boys. G'day. So Pumba's just said hello. That's Pumba's voice if you need to identify it later. And Majson is about to say g'day right now.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. That's me, Majson. That's my voice.
All right, boys. You guys wheel and deal on the Polish national team WTC Facebook page, yeah? And is that the place for people to keep up to date with the antics of the team? You know, check in with who was in the lineup and put some faces to the voices they're hearing right now.
That's very much correct. This year we tried to actually make the WTC a bit of a show for our supporters, from the people from our Polish community. We've brought a person with us who was responsible just for media, and I think this worked out great. We have a really nice lineup of things from the event, and all kinds of photos, round summaries, stuff like that, pairing summaries. So it's a nice place to keep track of what happened at the event and keep an eye out for anything that will be happening with Team Poland in the future.
Fan-freaking-tastic. So, to give you guys a little bit of the rundown and do the preamble very quickly, Art of War Down Under is predominantly a review podcast, usually, and for, the last couple of months, I've been reviewing and unpacking indexes. But we like to take a little bit of a break anytime something absolutely freaking momentous happens. This time last year, I did interviews with Team Poland, who came in third place, Team Germany in second, and then Team Australia came in first place at the WTC. This year, just doing Team Poland, guys, but the part 2 of this episode is going to be an interview and a sit-down, chit-chat and unpack with Jeremy Martino, who is the pairings head, the wizard of Team Australia in that faction. And we're going to be talking about what we've learned from 10th edition after seeing, 8 games of singles 40k from the best players in the world, and then 7 games of teams 40k from 8-pack teams in the best in the world. So there is a lot for us to know and learn about 10th edition. So please join us there over on Patreon if you want that part 2. Otherwise, sit back and let us hear this story of how Poland came together to get their first place in quite some time. Pumba, how did you go about selecting the team this year? I know there are tales, there are venerable legends about how Poland goes about selecting their national team and how you put together so many cutthroat murderers every year. But was this year any different?
I think it was basically in line with what happened, especially last year. So I think this is a kind of a good time. I was also planning to do that later, but I think it's a good time to shout out Typhus, who was last year captain for our team, who put the foundation for this year's team success, I feel like, and for the process to run as smoothly as possible, and this year especially, with what happened last time. So he was the person who basically, I can say myself, he taught me how to prepare the team for this event in the completely new fashion, like post-ETC, post-pandemic world where everybody and the whole 40k scene has gotten very cutthroat, very competitive, and the landscape of the game changed significantly. So the kind of a reform was needed. So the selection process was in line with what's been happening for years. A team of 3 selectors, which was me, Majson, who's here with me, and Duda, who's a legend from our community, who has been to like 7 of these, has been selected and tasked with picking the actual 8 that is that's gonna go and play the championship.
Beautiful.
However, the process has been refined to some extent of how we prepare.
Yeah, Majson, are you able to expand upon how the team prepares or what's expected from a member of Team Poland?
Okay, so first of all, because we got quite a strong community, maybe not strong in numbers, but there are a lot of players that have just a huge skill, and all of them competes for 8 spots. So first of all, the most important thing is to include not only physical play, like going to tournaments and team meetings, but also include TTS as part of preparation. And that was a big point the year before, and this year also we put a strict focus on TTS scrims, for example, with other national teams. So every new candidate for a team got an opportunity to test themselves in a just competitive environment with other countries, other national teams.
See, I find TTS so fascinating with how it's been used by national teams, because you'd think it was a big risk. You think it was a big risk of letting people see how good you are, pair appropriately, giving away information and all these things. And yet you guys have used it judiciously to get to this great point of success. What was the philosophy around TTS, and what did you do it for? Was it just literally for getting more and more reps, or was it for testing list philosophies or list archetypes and seeing what was worth using, what was not?
Basically everything to some extent. So the first of all is the building testing lists that are not standard. So when you come to the tournament, you usually play the best list from a metagame, and you couldn't just, for example, counter the metagame without a lot of testing. In TTS, it's easier to test some ideas, some strange ideas sometimes that can then provide a specialist that can be surprising to our opponents. So that's the first thing here. Second thing is just to get used to play internationally, so players can test their communication skills, play by intent thing. It's not easy as this year. We got a quite experienced team because majority of guys were already with us last year. There was actually only Victor who at first didn't have a lot of experience, and he wasn't last year in the team. So they could test themselves playing by intent, communication in English, and basically doing the first place international plays with other guys from different countries.
Pumba, anything to add to that point?
I think Majson basically summarized it pretty well. It's just a tool. We need to remember that it's not a magical spell that just solves your team problems. It's a tool that, if used correctly, can give you immense information on a particular player who is interested in actually applying to the team. Because you have such incredible opportunity to test such a big amount of players, because what we aspired to do during the selection process is actually give a huge amount of people opportunity to test themselves against international crowd. So what we've done is not only lock the scrims that we've organized to a very select amount of players. Anybody who applied to the national team, especially in the earlier stages, so last year, let's say December, November, could possibly play a scrim versus any other national team. That gave us a huge field to work and at and actually gather information and learn what the player's skill was, or if they are lacking something, if they are at the level required to actually go to WTC, right? So even though our community, comparatively, especially like tournament community, our competitive community is rather small, we use that tool to test as many people as possible and give them a chance to actually apply and get fair judgment.
That is exceptionally cool that you get to, like, everybody gets a chance to test out for the team essentially and feel the level that you need to be operating at in order to be selected. And then, at least people can't be like, oh, it's a boys club and, this guy only picks his friends and such and such and such. It's a very bipartisan way you guys are going about it. I respect it a lot. Talking about 10th edition, like, obviously, it was not ideal that there was, 2 months between 10th edition's release and the WTC, requiring a huge amount of preparation and learning. Majson, how did you approach learning 10th edition, and how did you make the most of the time that you had in order to be, the best player you could with an extremely new edition?
So personally, I just approached to the topic of 10th edition that I basically stopped playing 9th edition in May already, so I could clean up my head, just forget stuff and prepare myself, only focus on 10th edition. I resigned from playing any 9th edition events because just basically we already knew that 10th edition would be based on different, maybe the same core mechanics, but the scoring system will change. So basically, how you approach the game from a competitive perspective, you need to change your mindset about how do you approach the game. So that was my personal way to prepare, just to forget about 9th edition, focus on 10. And when 10th edition dropped, I just read a lot. A couple of times. I read the rules, indexes, stuff, and then tried to design some lists and start playing games.
Excellent. What about yourself, Pumba?
Generally, I kept playing 9th until the very end, but we were painfully aware that 10th is coming, right? Let's not beat around the bush. I think everybody expected the edition to drop around July time or July time. Exactly. So actually, we realized that the edition change is coming during the selection process, almost at the very start of it, I think. When we knew that one of the biggest requirements for every single player in the national team that's going to be selected is adaptation, is just their ability to adapt to the new meta, to the complete change in the rule set. So we couldn't rely on people just stagnating, for example, on one army, one list. We needed very much to, during the process of selecting the team, test their ability to play different armies, to adapt, to find rules, to create innovative lists, because that would be required at the dawn of the new edition.
So do you think it's safe to say, instead of people becoming specialists at certain factions, people had to become specialists at certain styles of play or certain archetypes, aggressive, defensive, horde, MSU, elite, things of that nature?
I think that's a good assessment. It's still a variety. So, for example, I think the biggest counterpoint to that would be Gito, who's our Necron sprayer. He was there at the last WTC. He was actually the biggest scorer in the team last WTC, playing Necrons, and he's just the definition of a faction specialist. At the same time, I think he's one of the best players in Poland in terms of actually playing at the table. There is no other person that's so precise, so incredibly talented when playing the game of 40k. And I think we kind of trusted that if time comes, if need be, this skill will still translate to other armies.
Yeah.
So even though he was very much a faction specialist, he was constantly able to innovate within that faction when the meta changed. So he proved himself that way.
Exactly right, and you're absolutely right. There are some factions that have enough depth that as long as you have the right player, there will be a list for them. Orcs was another good example. I think we've all discovered if you had the right Orc player at WTC, they were going to be worth taking. Majson, you ended up playing Genestealer Cults. Can I just ask you how many games you had with Genestealer Cults before playing at WTC?
I personally don't remember. quite a lot, because we got like every weekend there was a tournament or team meeting coming up, so I basically played the games nearly every day. To be honest, I didn't use TTS much in the preparation in the last month, because there was such huge number of live events coming that I just didn't have time to play TTS even, because we did a tournament with other national teams, just a preparation tournament a month before WTC. So we tested ourselves against Team Netherlands, Team Belgium, Team Scotland, and Team Denmark. That gave us a lot of insight into a metagame state and how to do pay rigs properly in 10th edition. Then we got there was, even before, there was a team tournament in Poland happening. After that, we got one team meeting in my city. There was another team meeting in Warsaw. Then was another team meeting in my city. So, for example, a week before WTC, I spent like 5 days with Victor, just playtesting Custodies and GSC. So we played this matchup quite a lot of times, like 5 times, specifically 3 to 5 times. I really don't remember how right now. With just because if we play test a game, it's not just playing a single game of 40k. It's like analyzing other options, doing variants, how to do, for example, turn 2 into 2 variants, analyze what can happen after that, and we are quite well prepared for a couple of specific matchups, especially Custodies versus GSC or GSC versus Astra Militarum that basically made a profit in WTC.
So that's an interesting thing, because you prepared for certain matchups more than others, even before you knew if other teams were taking that or if the pairing was going to occur. As those are things you were just so confident that you were going to need to know. Then how did you know beforehand that was what you needed to practice?
So basically, we didn't know for sure, but we easily could say that what's the top 3 or top 5 of meta picks in the game. So basically, Custodies, Eldari, and GSC, we knew that every competitive team will take these 3 arms.
Yeah, almost certainly.
No. And we need to at least playtest every of matchups within this top 3, top 5 armies, and be sure about the score, what can arrive from that.
Well, that's certainly true. I think everyone admitted that there wasn't a great way to get a win off Eldari, but everyone needed to be ready to take points off Eldari. Is that correct, Pumba?
That's very much the case. Yeah. I think that's the perfect explanation for that. In terms of general preparation against certain matchups, I feel like there was a group of armies that everybody expected to be in the 8th. There were some very certain picks, say Eldari. I think the top 3 would be Eldari, GSC, and Custodies. I think that turned out very much true when we look at the statistics. So those particular armies, everybody needed to have playtested, prepared for, and have answers for. Let's be honest, nobody in the world would be able to playtest every single matchup that's possible in the WTC in the 2 months that we had.
Legitimately, you would have wasted a bunch of your time if you did. Why did you need to play against Death Guard? It's not going to be there.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that was a very deliberate choice to assess where we need those preps to have the biggest impact possible. Yeah. During our games.
And while you might not end up playing as Eldar, if your list is bad into like Eldar, GSC, and Custodians, you were just like, well, I need a different list, because if it can't hang or get points off any of these top 3 factions, which are always going to be in every lineup, can I take this list? Is that a good example as well?
Yes, absolutely. Or at least be very much aware. I think this is going a little bit in depth into how we build the team comp itself. But our philosophy has always been to have answers in pairings to most armies that we might encounter. And whereas it was a little bit easier last year, I would say, to assess what the meta is going to look like compared to the very brand 10th edition, you had certain armies that we were sure are going to arrive at the WTC in large numbers. So we needed to at the very least have those very much locked in to not be a problem in the pairings process.
Well, let's go and have a look at the factions you guys took, and I'll quickly, for people at home, give an archetype of what kind of list it is, because I'm not going to go through every unit. Starting from the bottom, we have Lishu on Dark Angels, this is actually a crazy list, because you hear about this list on paper and you think this is a bad list. Why have they done this? As a Dark Angels player, I saw this and I got super excited because I really want to play this list. 6 aggressors in a Land Raider Redeemer with 10 Deathwing Knights, and then a huge amount of mission play in Inceptors, attack bikes, sniper scouts, thunderfire cannon, and then a bunch of bits and pieces characters like an ancient Terminator captain. Apothecary Biologists. This is really cute. So you put the Bolt of Discipline on the Biologists with the aggressors, and then they can actually just kind of hurt and kill everything. It's really quite a cool combo. Then we have Victor with his Custody Guard. He's got a pretty standard list. 1 medium, 1 big unit of Custody Guard, 2x2 Alaris, some Custodians, and then Calidus and Exaction Squads. I said I wasn't going through every unit, but I am. Gaito, who was playing Necrons. Pretty much a lot of MSU, which I thought was quite interesting. Double Doomsday Arc, a lot of Destroyers, and the 2x10 Lich Guard. And then Majson, who, it's GSC. We don't need to really explain it. Lots of
no aberrants though.
Yes.
No aberrants. So that's
very important, actually.
The same as Team Australia, in fact, who also took no aberrants. It was all just Acolyte Bombers and Neophytes and 2 Ridge Runners, which I thought was very interesting. Maybe I'll ask you about that in a minute, Majson. Duda, who had Eldar, who cares? Not impressed, Duda.
Fugen, though, come on.
I know, it was cool, right? It was so cool. He had
a Fugen in his list. Have you seen Fugen at the table?
No, and he actually had Guardians as well, like actual Guardians.
Yes.
It was kind of spice. Pumba, yourself, mate, who you had a Magnus, Sorcerer Heavy, Infernal Master, T-Suns. Everything else was pretty stock standard. A lot more Rhino-centric than a lot of others. Still had the Blue Scribes. No Changeling, but did have Flamers as well. Crazy Man, who had the Tau, which was very interesting. 1 unit of broadsides, and then 3 crisis units, 1 big, 2 mediums. And then lastly, we had the literal GOAT, the greatest Team 40k player of all time, who now has 5 freaking championships. Skark, who was playing Guard, who would, predominantly as an artillery battery, Gaunt's Ghosts, some bits and pieces and whatnot. A decent size, a unit of Bulgren as well, which I thought was nice. But apart from that, is literally just going to blow you up and have a couple of Hellhounds. That is the 8-pack lineup, and there is some spicy stuff in there to unpack. We'll start with the one you mentioned as a bit of a laugh. We'll start with the other one. Get out of the way. Why Fugen?
Because he gets up on a 2+. He is basically the second character with a fitting stem, which is crucial. It's like a lot, even though he has no alone operative, he's relatively tanky with a 2-up save, 4-up invuln, 5-up feel of pain, I believe. I'm a little bit spitballing, like off the top of my mind, what his defensive profile is. But the fact that he gets up on a 2+ at the end of the phase actually means he's a pain to remove and gives you a very nice objective play, especially useful in the mirror.
I totally agree. Well, especially in the shooting matchups, which, I hate to tell everybody, that's most of the game is shooting. Like 90% of all the best lists were like shooting lists. And so when you can just be like, lol, I get to exist on a mid-board objective for a whole turn and there's nothing you can do about it. And I want you to shoot him because it's a waste of your time. Like, it's a really powerful piece.
Yep, it's a very nice tech piece. Like, he could have been replaced with any other unit, like another unit of specters or spiders, but I think the fact that Duda just found this little piece in the codex that everybody missed just made a big difference in some of the matchups he played.
See, much the same as Team Australia as well, you have quite a few off-meta picks or picks where you would take the list that everyone knows is the best list and then alter it a little bit so it functions 20% differently in matchups and pairings, and that it's unique enough that people can't or won't bother preparing for exactly your version of it. Is that a reason you didn't take the Aberrants? You just wanted to be a little bit more tuned, Majson?
We knew that there are two archetypes of GSC list, so one with Aberrants, one with no Aberrants. And I've actually played two tournaments, one tournament with Aberrants and second tournament with no Aberrants list. The decision was basically my conclusion from that tournament was that Aberrants list has a bigger potential of delivering higher scores in the matchups, but there's a huge problem. There's no stability in this list because you can easily outplay Aberrants, like removing 5-6 models from the unit and then just not forcing the potential resurrection. And 4-3 Aberrants are just doing nothing because you can easily outscore the OC. They need to pass Battle Shock and stuff. And basically, and 3-4 Aberrants are not scary. They just don't kill stuff. And you can easily block it with something. Basically, what gives you the good player will know how to outplay Aberrants. Then there was a second topic, like in the pairings, there's a huge chance that there will be in the last four pairings, there's a huge chance that there will be a mirror matchup opportunity against GSC versus GSC because GSC is usually an attacker list. It's not a defender list, and they will be kept to the just final four. And Aberrants just don't do anything in the mirror matchup.
Yeah,
they're just a piece of garbage sitting in the middle.
They don't have, exactly right. They don't have any big units for them to hunt or bully. And then you just use like any unit to just block them in their L that they're in, and who cares? They can come out and they'll kill something. You just kill them, and they trade it down in points.
Just use one Acolyte squad.
Yeah, exactly. They're gone. It's a bit stupid. Like they're 400 points and you remove it with 150. Because that's saying more about how dumb Acolytes are, I think, right?
Yeah, they are.
Fair statement.
The best weapon in the 40k universe is a pack of dynamite. So.
It is exactly right. Switching over to yourself, Pumba. In the lineup, in the 8-pack, you took some very unique choices. I think the Dark Angels and the Tau scream as ones that would not have been conventionally thought of. I think a lot of people took Deathwatch, and after talking to so many people there, I kind of echoed the same. Space Marines were kind of not good enough at the event. And a lot of people did not take Space Marines or took very unique or skewed Space Marine list. Is that the same as you're thinking?
So I'm gonna, I'm gonna use this opportunity to just let all my hot takes out, as I am now the actual winner. So I make history, right?
Your hot takes are hotter,
and
right?
I will just put it out there. I think Deathwatch is straight up garbage. I think
agree.
that army is not good.
I
think a lot of people very much focused on the fact that it is the one GSC counter that always wins. I think that's still useless in the pairings process. I think you are never going to get that matchup if you are playing anyone like remotely competent at the other side of the table doing the pairings. So that actually is not a useful tool.
So it's a fallacy, right? To believe...
Exactly.
Yeah.
while they will have a lot of bad matchups, and I mean a lot of them.
Yeah. So why did you settle on this Space Marine list? Why take Space Marines at all?
Because that list is just fantastic.
It is.
I'm
really
gonna be honest.
cool.
I think it's my favorite from our lineup.
I'm gonna play it, by the way.
It might have not. It might have not performed as our biggest scorer, but I think it was definitely the most consistent. It was pretty much the easiest to pair through, like from all our armies, not like considering Elder. Although Elder are kind of, it's gonna sound stupid, but Elder are difficult to pair in a sense that you are very much trying to get them a 20 every single time, and it's very important that they get that good matchup. Whereas that particular Space Marine list went into almost anything. I think across the board, against every single nation we've played, it performed as our anchor, something that we could throw into almost anything. And its absolutely biggest strength was pinning Custodes. This list wrecks Custodes, which is amazing. As a tool, when you have that opportunity in your hand as a captain, as a person doing the pairings, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's just power. It's fascinating you say that, because like a lot of people will be looking at this on paper and not really understanding what it does. And I just think it has one of the things that I think Space Marines do the best is that they have the right amount of scoring units with lone operative and the right amounts of cheap a kind of surgical units like Inceptors, attack bikes. You just get to be like, well, I don't get 20'd. It's just like, I don't get 20'd, so let us work from there. Like, now that I don't get 20'd by anybody, maybe Elder, what units do I put in to make sure I get 12s? Now, where do I get 15s against? Who do I get 18s against, etc., etc.? Really exciting stuff. And I think this is the list in the entire event. This one and Olivier's list from Team France with the Black Templars. They're the two lists I want people to look at for what you want Space Marines to do at this level. And I think...
Could you imagine bringing a Land Raider Redeemer to the WTC?
Dude, it's the third bully unit, because a lot of people look at it like this unit, like it has the aggressors to bully people at times if they're the right thing for the matchup, with all the bolters and etc. etc. It has the Deathwing Knights to bully when people are all damage 2, take them damage 1, don't care, push on people, or rapid ingress, whatever. And then the Redeemer to just drive into the middle of the table and Overwatch.
You would not believe how many things this Redeemer has killed.
You told me. You literally told me that it killed like so much stuff. It would kill multiple like big knights, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so that was definitely my favorite pick. Just seeing Leshu, who is a veteran of the game, bringing the thing into our practice with just a pile of dust, like just literally scraping the dust off of it, because it's been sitting in his box or a shelf somewhere for the last 15 years, and actually performing with the unit was just incredible.
Absolutely. Majson, over to you. So you were doing a lot of the pairings and a lot of the, I guess, I assume, assisting with team composition. Team Poland is world famous for flipping matchups. Last year, notably, the most famous one was the Harlequin matchup. You guys spent, I think the gentleman I had on, I can't remember which of the wonderful team members you guys had, but that person played like 80 reps in order to make sure they 20-0'd Eldar every time. And then they 20-0'd Australia's
Eldar. That was
my... That's who I thought. I thought it was.
That was exactly.
Yes, I was pretty sure it was you. I'm pretty sure I had you on last year, but I wasn't 100%. I felt guilty. Did you guys work on anything similar to that this year?
We tried to find something against Eldari because we knew if we, for example, find a counter for Eldaris, it will be easier to win the whole event. But yeah, the Eldari was just this index is just too strong to find a direct counter, and always you need to have at least two of that. But I think that what we have found is a direct counter to Custodes. So we had two anchors that could win against custodies. The one list that Pumba mentioned, it was Space Marines, and the second was our guard list, which was designed to just smash custodies, make 20 out of it, regardless who started the game and regardless of the mission, it could win against custodies. And just results show how what was the score of our guard list, and basically slowing down bricks of custodies, wardens and guards, and then killing them with artillery, hellhounds, which remove cover and they have also good profile. It was all designed to just flip match up with custodies, which we already knew after the tournament with preparational tournament with other national teams, that custodies is a very good first or second defender, and we need to counter custodies as first and second defender.
So you made sure you had something to able to 20 custodies if they ever tried to use them as a defender. Did you do the same for Genestealer cults?
Not at all, because we knew that the Genestealer cults is not a defender army.
Yep.
It's more like an attacker, so we didn't need to do that. And for example, against GSC, you can put Necrons as attacker, and it will be around a draw. So we didn't have a problem to attack GSC. Table choice usually just doesn't matter against GSC. So there's no advantage of GSC going as defender, and just straight up losing points as GSC as a hitter army is bad for a team. So so we didn't expect.
Transitioning over to Pumba for a moment, how do you identify what armies are going to be attackers, what armies are going to be defenders most likely?
That's a very difficult question.
It is. It's a very deep question as well.
Yeah, it's complex. So first of all, it's just an assignment that actually you give to the armies, because as many teams have proven over the past weekend, any army can be anything, and actually being flexible in making those decisions can very much throw your opponent off. So that's just the baseline that you are working off of. You must always remember that this is only the baseline, your kind of a scheme that you're going off of, but not necessarily the holy truth, and anything can be defended or attacked with. I would say a good defender list is something that having that first board choice is just the definition of a good defender, will score points against every single army with the game. And for us, those main first defenders, second first defenders we've used this tournament was Giddo's Necrons with 2 blobs of Lich Guard and the Custodies list. Big part of our prep this year was a Pyrrha Cup tournament organized by Majson himself, for which we invited other WTC teams from across Europe, including Scotland, Denmark, Netherlands. I'm forgetting people already. Belgium was there. I will surely just forget one or something.
But that's all. There was a second Polish team, just because.
Basically, it was a huge practice weekend disguised as a tournament, where we could test our theories about 10th edition. And it was invaluable. The amount of stuff we learned just by actual practice against actual national teams during the pairings and finding things basically on the live organism, not in theory, was like nothing else in this world.
Fantastic.
I think this is legitimately the thing that made us win WTC, and I'm not kidding you.
That is really
I've learned
cool.
so much.
That is really cool. All right, we're going to quickly run through your lineup, and you just pretty much tell me if you saw this list as an attacker or a defender, just so people at home can get an idea of what the kind of archetypes or styles of list fulfill roles at this level. So I think you've already said that you saw the Dark Angels as an attacker.
Yes, definitely. A pin.
Yep.
A pin for Custodes is the main thing. Very good into a lot of other matchups like other Space Marines, Chaos Demons that they may encounter, possibly drawing GSC as well.
Majson, 1 second before we jump back, can you define what a pin or a flipped matchup would be for people at home who may be unfamiliar?
So pin is something that we use as a definition as two attackers to a specific defender. So until these two pins, so two attackers are in the team, can be used. So until they are in use, that particular defender could not be used properly.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if you use Custodes, you get two counters and pairing one by us. So that's particular a pin for something means.
Excellent. And what does it mean about a flipped matchup?
Flipped matchup is a matchup when you know that your opponent just estimates as a win, and then suddenly after the game it's the other way around because you use a specific tactics that just works against list, and you are aware of that.
Yeah. So that opposition team will be seeking a matchup, thinking on their data, thinking it is a successful or positive matchup, but you have secret tech, you have ways and means or technology or decisions, strategies that mean that is incorrect, and you flip the matchup. And these are the things that is the biggest way or the biggest, most dramatic way you can win and lose rounds. Is that correct to say, Pumba?
Absolutely. That's basically a great definition.
Excellent. All right, go. So we're done. Lishu. We have the Necron list, which you said was also a possible first defender. Sorry, first or second defender.
First or second defender, it always depends on the team you're coming up against. As I've said previously, you must be always flexible and looking for your options. But yeah, definitely good defender. Very hard to effectively counter and get a massive score out of with the board choice.
So it was a beautiful balance of MSU plus Doomsday Arcs plus 20 Lich Guard. I actually really like this Necron list. I think this might be one of the best Necron lists in the world, if not the best. It's definitely the best Lich Guard list, I believe.
Right. A special shout out here because, as you've previously mentioned, this list has a lot of destroyers, which was very necessary, as we expected Necrons might just get attacked with Elder, of course, right? And because of that, you are expecting people to bring Wraith Knights into the mix. That list has actually enough anti-tank vehicle damage to blow a Wraith Knight just by its shooting itself, which is crucial. It can actually flip that matchup if someone is not careful enough. If he's trying to get a huge win out of that Necron list, it will get blown to pieces.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's got a lot of single, 3/3/2 heavy destroyers, which I actually like a lot because they're 135, so 50 points less than the Doomsday Arcs. But when a Wraith Knight puts a whole Wraith cannon at you, you still have enough wounds that they might fail, they might go over, might go under. If they roll a 6, they kill 1, and who cares? Unless they roll a 6, they might only kill 1, and who cares? Like you move on. I think that's a cool little piece of tech there. Majson's GSC, whatever, who cares? No one's impressed, Majson.
Straight up.
I'm really sorry. I didn't invent anything new.
I do think you have a type now, because I remember your Harlequins list last year was just like boys in boats go fast in face, and just it's on brand. Duda, who's pretty much got a pretty, apart from Fugan and the Defenders, Guardians is pretty much just a standard list. It did have the Wraith Guard, which I found was interesting, because I remember in the singles, none of the Wraith Guard Eldari lists made it to the finals. There was 3 or 4 top 4 Eldari, and none of them had the Wraith Guard in it. Was this just because? Yeah, well, I can see a world where singles is better for having more models, more units. But Wraithguard's very cheap, 310 points. You're not giving up that much to put them in your list.
You're really not. Actually, before they gotten nerfed, I think it was literally like 1 week before the list deadline, we were running 20 of those bad boys. And you can see like the aftermath of that in the Scottish and Dutch lists in the WTC. They were both running 20 Wraithguards still, and that is because during our prep event, Duda was running 20 of these bad boys still.
How did you? So I did skip over the GSC because I thought it was funny. But going back, did you? So you guys used GSC as an attacker. Did you ever find your GSC in trouble of being pinned or not being able to take certain matchups?
Yes, definitely yes. I think the biggest example of that was against England. In the very last pairing, I felt like the English were doing everything to pin that GSC matchup with their Elder, who was very specifically, in my opinion at least, stacked to play that matchup very well of 2 Wraith Knights and an Avatar, all things basically reducing the damage of the Seismic Cannon and the Demo Chargers by half at least, and their Death Watch. So this is where we felt GSC might actually struggle. Overall, I think this event kind of showed that GSC are ridiculously good, yes. However, they are nothing close to Elder levels of broken.
Exactly right. They are very vulnerable to matchups. So this is the thing also about GSC. GSC don't put up 20s. They get in singles. You get 1 point win, 5 point wins, 10 point wins, happy days. When you are the second best army in the game and you can't 15-5 somebody because they just have 10 reps into GSC, and it's just not that kind of army. So essentially, you just don't let yourself get tabled by acolytes, and you get a 15-5. Like it's kind of crazy to see how different and how vulnerable they were when people could attack them or people could pressure them into matchups. And it's really interesting you say about the Eldari matchup, because I found a lot of teams were trying to get their GSC into the Eldar because they were afraid of them getting a small win or no win versus other armies, but they could still get a small loss versus Eldar, which was actually a lot of other factions could not. Is that something you guys saw as well? Actually, Majson, did you play against Eldar many times?
Before we play tested, we could with Duda a couple of options, and it all depends on the Eldar list, because there were a couple of lists, for example, lists without Wraith Knight or single Wraith Knight, a low board presence that I could just smash with GSC and take a win. There was one list that got me troubles. That was Money's list with double Wraith Knight and basically 4 really hard to remove bricks of stuff, and that could play basically fix secondaries, assassination and Homer, and I just don't have enough time to kill everything. I could try, but we play tested that with Duda. It was like I scored like 2 or 3 points from that matchup. To be honest, this is a really this is a matchup that really depends on dice. Who goes first? For example, if my acolytes survive Overwatch or not, it makes all the difference. And it's kind of random, so we also didn't want to risk that. So because like I got 2 turns with acolytes not doing damage because they die from the Overwatch, and then I'm basically the time is too short to get points back and win the game.
What were your scores versus Eldar? Like
it was 15 and 16 or something like that.
Wins or losses?
Wins.
Ooh. Oh.
Imagine losing into Elder. Come on.
I know. Who does that?
Come on. Last year I didn't lose. Last year I didn't lose against Elder. I didn't want to lose against Elder this time.
But once again, like the Aberrants versus Eldar are a liability. They do nothing and they explode. But
yeah,
more
yes, And that was also the case that we didn't pick Aberrants because they do shit in this matchup.
Yep, correct. All right, up to your list, Pumba. Tell me what you use this list as in your pairings, because this is the Rubik Marine Rhino Magnus T-Suns.
Mm-hmm. So this list was straight up inspired / just stolen from Liam VSL, who is a team Belgium player / co-captain who came to our practice. Back then, in the middle of July, I was still running the Terminator blob along with Magnus. I felt this list that I've been running is very binary, let's call it. I felt like if it gets a good matchup, say against Knights, it could absolutely 20-0 them, but it's also very volatile and could crumble if paired incorrectly, and required a lot of very careful planning in the pairing process to not get that bad matchup. Whereas after seeing Liam play his version without the Terminators and with the Rhinos, I felt his approach was way more stable. Still, he had some good matchups, some matchups that he countered, but was overall leaning towards the middle, so as we call it, so leaning towards the 10-10 mark, right? So a draw against pretty much anything. And I felt that in case of Thousand Suns and that just comboed way more with the armies that we have chosen so far than having that opportunity to score huge wins with, for example, the Terminator blob in my T-Suns. So my list was very much designed to go into guard, for example, with the 3 Rhinos, a lot of lone operatives, works great there. Same with Deathwatch. That list just completely can literally rush Deathwatch. They kill your Rhinos and then you kill the whole army in return. So that was the 2 matchups that I was hunting the most. And other than that, I could play almost anything to a score. I didn't have many super favorable matchups. I didn't score 20s, but I could also go almost into anything and still bring points for the team. That was the idea behind it.
Beautiful. Okay, so moving over to the next one. This next one is... sorry, I do notice it was very interesting that when you dropped off the Terminator. So there was a lot of... I know Team Australia was saying they expected lots and lots of Terminator equivalents. So that being somewhere between toughness 4, toughness 6. So covering... Scout Patrol Terminators, Custodes, Lich Guard, things of that nature, multi-wound, bully blobs, blobs like Wraith Guard in this as well. Was that something you're specifically trying to dodge? Because there is a lot of armies that do prey on that profile.
That's very much the case, yes. I feel like if you have the meta that's definitely going to have Warrior bricks, Lich Guard bricks, Custodes blobs, those are very profiles that are very difficult to shift, and still everybody has to shift them. There is no way to play 10th edition without being able to actually answer those profiles. And in that very environment, if you get a bad matchup with that Terminator brick in your army, that's just going to fly off the board immediately. They are nowhere near as durable as like a Warden brick or a Lich Guard brick. They do a lot more damage. They are absolutely amazing at opening the game up, smashing it. But if they don't get that certain, if you face against Skarsgård,
yes,
that's just
liability.
All about killing Wardens and Guardians. That Terminator brick is just 500
dead points.
Dead points. It's just a dead weight.
So, Majson, you guys have said a lot about how you wanted to pin Custodes. So if you thought Custodes were so pinnable, why did you take them? And what was different about your Custodes list to, say, the more conventional ones?
So, first of all, after first test with Custodes, because we started including tanks, like Caldiuses in the list, and first tests were played with tanks included. Like I guess Team England got tanks, still got tanks on the list. So after having a couple of tests. We just dropped them. We thought because they were all just not useful in the metagame. Custodies were still a very good army. So we just needed to learn and playtest a couple of matchups that could open up Custodies, like Custodies versus GSC, because we found out that this is kind of a drawish matchup with GSC advantage. But if a GSC player makes a small mistake, then Custodies just can rush over the board and kill GSC and just win the game. And it happened during WTC. It's still the top army, so we just knew that we couldn't afford to have them pinned. So we have the second defender, like Necrons. So in case our opponents got 2 pins for Custodies, we used Necrons as a first defender. That was basically our approach here. And then try to use the first first pairings to get Custodies unpinned so they can do their job later.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And getting them unpinned, unleashes the weapon again. Now you have a good weapon list all of a sudden. Pumba, tell us about the Tau in your list. Was this your 8th list? Was this the one you guys put in last? And why did you take Tau over, say, Chaos Space Marines, Knights, Orcs, etc.?
Yeah, so that was the 8th pick, very much the case. The list came about after, again, Pura Cup, where the Scots just performed incredibly well with it. They also brought the list to the WTC. We have previously been testing CSM, but we're very unimpressed with it. We didn't find it actually opened up any matchups. It wasn't a useful tool in the pairings process. It didn't really do anything for us there. So we tried as hard as we could to find some replacement for that. The Tau impressed there as something that people would be definitely unprepared for, that can legitimately deal just incredible amount of damage if you disrespect it.
Well, it's kind of funny you compare it to Chaos Space Marines because it's got a lot of very similar tools. The Crisis units and Obliterators operate very similar ways, but with slightly different profiles. I do think the damage output from both can be absolutely stupid, but the ceiling on 6 battle suits and what they can do with Carrion is freaking disgusting, man. I've seen people lose like 1,000 points to that unit in a turn. And the broadsides are just good. They're just like good. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
That's very much the case. However, the Tau actually, I find, has way more chaff in the list. Their trash is just better, in my opinion, whereas CSM need to deploy things like Raptors or possibly allied demons, which we kind of wanted to take with my Thisans already. They lack this profile of a unit that can just score you points, which is so crucial in both 9th and now 10th edition.
Can everyone just appreciate how stupid Tetras are? Like, for what you get...
Yeah, exactly, right?
Just 80 points for 2, the amount of durability, wounds, and then utility and mission play for 80 points is just kind of disgusting. And I think
they are absolutely incredible.
They're easily the best thing in the book. You would take 6x2 if they were battle line. You would take 20 if you could. They are just that much value. Anyway.
I think we are pushing it, but yes, generally agree.
That's fair. Yeah. 20 is, I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. It's funny. Of course. It's funny. How did you guys use your Tau in the pairings? What was their role?
So generally, I must admit, I think the Tau turned out to be a bad choice overall. I think, have we found the orc lists, for example, that worked better? Something like the Team USA were running at the tournament? Or have we found maybe a Chaos Knights list with 13 War Dogs that actually worked better? I think that would have been preferable choice to the Tau. I think what held our Tau back mainly was the fact that our player
literally got the army to test 2 weeks before the submission, something like that, just after the Pura Cup. At the Pura Cup, he was still playing Turnits. That was also one of the options that we heavily discussed as ringing as our 8th choice. But yeah, we decided on the Tau because of the Pura Cup, but I think some of the matchups that Tau got could have been easily improved by just playing the shit out of them. Say the Space Marine matchup. I think that's very much doable, that this matchup always goes to Tau. It would just require enough practice and testing extensively to achieve that. And we just didn't have enough time for that.
Fair. So even with all your prep, I love that you still have that story. We were scrambling for the 8th pick, and we didn't get a bad choice, but there was a better choice. Had you found it. And so, Majson, when you say you didn't find the list or you didn't come across it, is that just simply like there were just so many 10th edition options for this 8th slot that you found one you were happy with and just went with it? And had you, like, is that all it is? Like you didn't have the point of discovery to see that there was this Orc list, there was this Chaos Knights list, etc., etc.?
I think this comes up to our community size, because we just didn't have enough manpower to test out every option. So we don't have one really, really good player for every army. Our players need to analyze 1, 2, 3 armies at the same time, and we just play tested orcs, of course. We found out some solutions, but none of them worked, and we just didn't find the build that Americans came up with, and we just missed that. And we're to be honest, we are just not prepared for their orcs.
Mm-hmm. So generally, I think this is true for every single team. I think it's straight up impossible to find the best option always. What you are doing is trying to make a cohesive team comp, and as many people, like, we can say our tower was not optimal, for example, but we had the guards which performed amazing, and like our Dark Angels list, whereas I think people would be very disappointed with the performance of the Deathwatch, right? So I think every single team has the story of something they
Correct.
Learned at the WTC that would have been a better option for them, and we have the same thing.
Exactly right, and I love that even the best team at the event, undeniable best team at the event, still had a story of, look, 10th edition was really new. We didn't find the perfect one, but we found one that worked well enough that you won the event. I think it's a great story, because people, I know people personally who will obsess about having to have the perfect list, the right missions, the right enhancements, etc., etc. And it turns out you just need the one that works. And there are several, keys that will fit that, unlock that door for your team. All right, let's talk about your matchups. So, people who do not know at home, the WTC is scored on a 20-0 metric. So when you play your game after you finish, you look at how many points differential you have beaten or lost the game by, and then you put it into a little matrix, and then you'll have a number out of 20 for how many points how you've won or lost the game. You start at the 10-10, 0-0, and every increment of 5 that you have won or lost the game up brings their score up by 1 and your score down by 1. So you'll start at 10-10 at 0. If they beat you by 5 points, it'll be 11-9 to them. Another 5 is 12-8, etc., etc. To get a 20-0 win, you have to have won or scored 51 points more than your opponent. Just to break it down. And then you add those scores up, and that's your team score. So a team can score 160 points for a round because there's 8 individual games. It's 8 versus 8. And so 160 is... if you've scored 160 points, they didn't get a point, and you've done something terrible to them, and you should apologize. But
I'm kind of now curious if that has ever happened in any WTC.
I don't know if it is. But so to win a round, you have to score 86 points. Your team has to score 86 points, and therefore you are 10 points more than your opposition, and you have won the round. 86 to 95 is generally a smallish win. 95, 105 is a good medium win. Anything above 110, you've kicked their ass. you've hurt them badly. So your first round, who did you play? And how did it go? And this was a very interesting one because this is the first time these guys were ever attending the event. So they could have been a bit of a spoiler. But tell us about your round versus South Africa.
Yeah, that was South Africa. We were very happy to play them, actually. Their coach, Carl Grandi, who I know from attending UKTC events as a judge, who is a good friend of mine. I knew he was the coach for the team. So I was very excited to see how they perform as a completely new team, as a newcomer. And generally, talking after the games with them, but also with everybody from our team, we were so incredibly impressed by them. And I mean this genuinely. I could have never expected a freshly formed newcomer team to put up such a great showing, to have so much game knowledge, great play by intent, great positioning, great mistake, great. Sorry. Basically, their behavior at the tables didn't suggest that this is their first WTC at all. Is what I'm saying. It's just incredible to me that a completely new team can show such level of professionalism at the tables, at the pairing table. Overall, it was a pleasure to play them.
Wonderful. You did get a significant win. You got 119 points there. Who did you play round two?
That was Wales.
Yep.
That was a well-established team, but we were, as the group stages, way in advance before the round begins. I think we were genuinely very prepared for our pod. We were the seed 1, tier 1 team in that pod, so we were expecting to perform great, and we just prepared the shit out of it.
Yeah. Majson, you able to explain the pod stage for us? How does the seeding work for people at home who might be a little curious?
So basically there are four groups of teams. They're tier basically based on tiers. So you got historically the best teams in one group, then the second best, and the third best, and the fourth. And every pod got one team from every box, basically. It was fully randomized, but for example, we couldn't play, Poland couldn't play against Germany or USA or England in a pod phase because we are all in one basket. So
yeah, so the pods are meant to a little bit smooth out the curve, kind of allow the event to progress more steadily, let's say, so you don't have a round 1, round 2 finals, kind of, right? It also gives which is I think worth mentioning, gives the newer or less experienced or maybe aspiring teams to have a shot at beating some of the main competitors for the title, and I think this also gives them a fair chance, right? Because if, say, we just play one team of like tier 4, our newcomer team, and then immediately go on to face USA, for example, we might never face another less experienced, for example, team ever again. And now you have the opportunity for every team from the lower seeds to still face us.
Exactly right.
During the first 2 days.
And you know that in your pod, you're going to have a very, like you said, a smooth bell curve of matchups. And also you know them in advance. So if you are one of the newer teams, you can spend a lot of time unpacking and getting your pairings perfect into teams that are equal, a little bit better, or much better than you, for example. And so sometimes you see some absolute upsets, and it's really, really excellent to see. And then other times you see people who are just getting a really good sample size of what to expect from the WTC because of the pod stage. And last one in your pod was Finland. How did this one go?
Very much correct. Still kind of as planned. I think this pod stage generally has proven to us that we are extremely well prepared. Our estimations more or less work. Our philosophy of doing the pairings and our pins, as we've discussed, are working properly. and people maybe are not expecting everything that's happening. So it generally made us sure that we are on track to beat the best teams at the event.
Fantastic. Majson, you were doing a lot of the pairings. I saw you at the pairings table doing a lot of the data entry and stuff. At this point of the event, have you learned anything about how teams are pairings or how people are using certain factions?
I think that mostly most conclusions were just correct with our estimations before. I don't think we found out something new for us. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pumba. But I think basically this time we didn't fix many of our estimations.
Yeah, which was a big difference from our last year, where we actually drew Belgium in the group stage and had to completely rethink some of our foundations for the rest of the event based on that result.
Excellent. And it was, Team Belgium, it's funny how people teams start to get a flavor or a thing that they're famous for. Because Team Belgium did the same thing to Team Australia.
Yep.
It's just they're the giant killers.
Exactly.
They have a great uppercut, but a less punching up, phenomenal. Punching down, not as good. Because they drew New Zealand and Australia, and Australia did beat New Zealand quite convincingly, and then they both draw to the same team because Belgium has put an enormous amount of prep and effort into Team Australia and not as much into Team New Zealand, and I just find that such a funny story. It's so.
I think that is very much what happened last year as well, which is just wonderful to see actually that they've kept their David versus the Goliath status.
I think it's so good that, especially national teams having an identity like that, having a thing they're famous for on the world stage, I think is only good for the game. All right, so the round 4, and it's safe to say you are into the shark pool now because you're up against Team Sweden, who had had the best year I think they'd had in a decade.
At least, I think, yeah. They used to be a complete powerhouse, and now it was very nice to see them back at the top tables.
This was 103-57, so a medium win out of this one. Any big stories from this round?
I think we basically paired pretty well. I think the main thing was that one of the things that we very much prepared for is, as we've discussed, our custodies were supposed to be the first defender, maybe second defender, right? And because of that, we expected them to get bust, or kind of, right? You need to be prepared for the fact that if they get first defender, they might just get Eldari, for example, GSC as the attacker. And we have established very early on that we take those anytime. That the opportunity to get that pairing into custodies on their table choice is massive. It opens up the table so much that you do that every time. Because of that, Victor and Majson have practiced the GSC matchup to an incredible extent. So Victor was so practiced into GSC that even though every single time that he paired against it, it was written as a small loss for him, he sometimes, as a match with Sweden showed, was able to completely smash it to the other person's side of the field.
He 18-2'd them.
That is very much correct.
I'm just looking at it right now. So the two big stories here is Thomas, Necrons versus Eldari. He got 8 points, so did not get blown out. Very close game. And then your Eldari got 16, so you got 4 more points than theirs. And then your GSC got 16, their GSC got 2. So huge swings in the two best factions, agreed upon factions in the game, getting, very much below par. And that was what we're talking about, pinning, mitigating, and everyone having a plan into these. And that was perfectly demonstrated. All right, next round is up against who?
The big one.
This is
the US of A.
Yes, this was the draw. 79-81. If you can go and watch this game, I streamed this round, and man, it was a big deal. So, Majson, where did the pairings go wrong? Because I think you all admitted the pairings didn't go amazingly.
Yeah, so there are 2 points here. So first of all, we didn't discover orcs on time, and we didn't expect them to just defend with orcs as first defender. And when we realized what happened, it just we were like, okay, this is going to be tough. This is really going to be tough to recover from that first pairing. And basically, yeah. This is the first thing, and the second thing that happened is my personal wrong estimation against Tyranids, because we didn't have enough time to play it properly, and it came out that Tyranids, Maiden's Tyranids played perfectly, can just wreck GCL cult. And I got this marked as a small win for me, and I just played a really, really wrong game with wrong estimation, with wrong assumptions. So this was a flip, a classical flip that we do, but on the other side. So fortunately, our mirror Eldari came up for our advantage. So we managed to recover some points from that, but basically there was a flip, and there was something that we didn't have answer for.
So let me set the stage. I'm streaming this game, so I'm very aware. I'm walking around. I'm talking to captains. I'm talking to coaches, not talking to captains. And your coaches are trying to be so stoic about how bad you guys think it is going. So, because not only do you think the pairings have gone a little bit poorly, but then in 7 out of 8 tables, America has rolled and have the first turn. And this is the 4 objective mission. This is the one where you can just be like, your opponent gets no primary for the first. I'm correct, yeah. This was the 4 objective mission. You remove the center one.
Yes.
It's so swingy, and I believe with a pressure list, with a list that can pressure primary, you can just push your opponent out of the game, and it's much more. There are much more 20-0s, big wins and big losses on this than many other missions. At least that's
I'm still pulling. Yeah, I'm still pulling orcs. Lucas trolls orcs out of my ass. Like legitimately, holy shit, that was brutal.
Going first in this mission is really, really.
Yeah. So. But something amazing happened at this table. Something incredible happened for Team Poland. You guys were losing. And losing badly so there are 4-hour rounds at the WTC, and I would say for about 3 hours and 10 minutes of the 4 hours, everyone on Team Poland thought they were losing, and they were the reason that you were losing. Because, so maybe not Skark, but everyone thought this is going badly. I need to get more points. I need to get more points. I need to do better. And then this incredible thing happened in the last 45 minutes. Where you guys self-manifested more points. We're just willed more points into existence. And from losing on almost every table going poorly against you, swinging against you, you ended up being on the winning side of the draw. It ended up being 79-81. So Poland actually got the top of the draw, as we would say. And then after that, it was almost like you guys leveled up. You went to a new level of competition, a new level of you got activated by this, because for the rest of the event you guys were untouchable, unshakable. Tell me about this, because this is an incredible thing, Pumba.
Legitimately, as a team captain, I just must take responsibility here. I think we straight up got outpaired, and I must give credit to Team USA, who were the only team at the whole event who I felt as have just got perfect data almost. They pairing against them felt like they had our tables before them and avoided every pin we've set up perfectly, so that we have no good options after the first kind of bump being the orcs defending. The fact that we didn't have anything solid prepared against them. And after that, they just literally never gave up anything in the pairings. So that was just incredible to see for me. No other team during that 7 rounds have done anything remotely close to that. So enormous props to them. However, I think this round also just showed us how good we fucking are at this game.
Yeah, boy. I mean, that's what you can take away from that. I like, if absolutely, I cannot besmirch you that feeling of being like, hey, chips are down, and you proved your resilience, tenacity, and how skillful your players are, because you all, as a whole 8-pack of players and coaches, as a team, dug yourself up out of the hole that the pairings put you in, and it was. As much as I love everybody on Team America, I love everybody on Team Poland. It was amazing to see a team just like hive mind connect and be like, yo, we can do this. Just a couple of points from all of us, and we got this. And you freaking did it. It was pretty impressive. It was one of the most impressive things I've seen.
Yeah, huge props to our team of coaches, which we really liked last year. This year, this round just showed us also how amazing these guys are.
Yeah,
like Everett, who was our main coach, has been on top of every single matchup during that round, telling every single one of us if where the points needs to be kept, that the push is necessarily, if whenever possible, who can actually accomplish that.
Yeah,
he's been on top of it and just relaying information perfectly across all tables.
Incredible. There was a very funny moment because, like, I go around and I talk to the coaches and I try and get an idea of how things are going. And so I start talking to one coach. I can't remember his name, but he's the taller gentleman who's wearing a hat. And then
that's Everett. That's our head coach.
Yeah, and then another coach walks over. This gentleman is the gentleman with the braces on his teeth, and he's essentially making sure that Everett doesn't say too much. So I'm talking to Everett, and Everett's looking at him, being like, and I'm like, so how do you feel like the pairings went? And then the other guy walks up. I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, are you just like, what are you doing? And he's just like, I'm making sure he doesn't say too much. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to start talking to you because that's what I want to know. I'm like, what is he not supposed to say? And I start talking to the other bloke, like, what don't you want him to say? Like, because that's what I want to know. And then he's just like,
awesome.
He's like a little bit uncomfortable with the pressure. Because I'm like, I've started grilling it. It was funny as hell. It was like real Polish, stoic, like face impassive, give nothing away. It was really funny. All right.
Yeah. So generally, huge props to the team for just carrying the skill out of that. I think it also just made us fly. Like this round, actually drawing that after the pairings went south. It's, for me, just imagine the situation where you are coming against people who are doing 40K professionally as their full-time job, and you're just a guy from Poland with a normal 8-hour job, a family, a child. You sometimes plays on the weekend, and you practice sometimes in the evenings, and you are able to just absolutely be on the same level as him on the table, or even better. It's incredible to me that the guys just pulled it off to such an extent.
It's extremely validating. All right, last day up first is Team Spain. Majson, any stories from this round?
Basically we know Spanish guys quite well because this was actually one of our most frequent partner team that we scream against on TTS and on various occasions like TTS tournaments and stuff. So we had we knew that they will be a challenge for us. Because they managed to draw, or even if I remember correctly, there was a win against our team. One of our scrims. So we needed to prepare ourselves, and we did a lot of work evening before just to make sure that our table is correct. and to make sure that we have a plan. Because from estimations, there was a lot. The estimations just showed us that there will be a problem here. So we needed to stay focused, and we needed to, because at this point, both us and Team USA got the same scores. So, but they were ahead of us by 13 points. Battle 13 battle points. So we needed to work hard to, in case they win all. Yeah, they win two matchups. We win two matchups. We needed to just gain points. So here, I think the pairings went really good because we avoided a couple of problems. I managed to pair into the Eldari, and we already knew that GSC is can, because their Eldar list was more focused on anti-tank shooting, like including 3 Ravagers, and I knew that this is a list that easily give up points, bring it down, so I could play fixed secondaries. So this was a matchup that I knew that I can win, especially on this mission when you score, which is really, really good for G-Steel cults, like scoring at the end of the game.
Yeah,
points,
you get the 15 points at the bottom of turn and stuff like that. And
yeah,
you 15-5'd their Eldar. That is a big blowout.
Yeah, and I managed, and it was the best game in the tournament for me. I mean, for the best opponent I got in terms of playing by intent and being nice on the table.
Superb.
Great, really great man, Manu. The best guy in the tournament, for sure, at least for me. And also there's a story behind a Skark game against G-Steel cults.
Yep.
This was the game that he basically tabled G-Steel cults.
How do you so I know how this happened, but how do you table G-Steel cults, everybody?
You shoot.
I don't know.
Really?
I never. No one ever managed to table
has
me.
performed this feat yet.
No.
Yeah, that was the first one.
So,
apparently,
I
you
really
drive
don't know.
your cannons and hellhounds all forward and just literally table them.
He was pushing with his basilisks and his manticores and stuff, and then sentinels and blocking off the table from blips, whilst just like obliterating everything. It is so dumb to think that actually is something that happened.
Checks out.
Also, to be fair, this was a matchup, the second matchup that we played with Skark a lot of times. Like we analyzed it, every potential move, and Skark list was designed to get points from G-Steel cults. Hellhounds are really a problem for GSC. Yes, and Astropath just blocks one fragment of the board from deep striking, which is really good in this matchup. It's still, from our estimations, it still was a small lose, if I remember correctly. But to be honest, list with Aberrants doesn't have a mean to just win this matchup. And that's why also we decided finally to go without Aberrants, just to have more board presence and just spam the board with neophytes. And then there's not enough artillery to get rid of all of the stuff.
All right, so last round, Poland versus Team England. Now, this is also on stream if anybody wants to see it over on War Games Live. And it was a really interesting discussion about putting on Team Poland or Team USA. But the fact is that Poland was in the driver's seat, and as long as Poland won, because USA had another draw, US had 2 draws, Poland was the only team that if they won, undeniably 100%, they won the event. And a lot of people may question why we didn't go with, the US team for the US audience, but for the broadcasting the most important game at the round and what was right for the event and what was right for the WTC was to put Poland on. And I back that decision every time. I have had a few people question me on it and I'm like, shut up. This was the right call. You don't have a say. England, I know as soon as the pairings were finished, because I was sat there watching the pairings, they thought they had lost. Was that the same
And
feeling?
I think we knew we won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was 4.
You would not believe my relief
Yeah.
when I saw first Defender Custodes in the very finals. Something that we have prepared
Yeah.
months for. Months of prep went into the fact that this is just never going to work against us.
Yeah.
And it's just happened in the finals.
And I just walked
and
straight
I'm
into it.
already over the moon.
Yeah.
And just before the pairings, there was a funny discussion. I had a funny discussion with Pumba. I just asked Pumba, what if they really put Custodes as the first defender? Pumba was like, nah, it will never happen.
Brother.
Not
We are
happening,
playing the
brother.
finals. That's never going to happen.
No fucking way. It will never happen. And imagine my face when they put the first card at Custodes. And it was like, okay,
Yeah, that was a complete shocker.
There were some very close games here. Yourself, Majson, into Alex Harrison's Astra Militarum, 11-9. Very, very, very close. Same thing for Mike Porter into Tomas's Necrons, 11-9 against. But then there were some big ones. Duda getting a 20 on the Tyranids. Skark getting a 20 on the Custodes. Huge wins. And then even actually just getting 3 points out of the loss versus Manichima's Eldari. These are all big deals. What was the story of this one? Or was it just like all won in the pairings and then just go through the motion for 4 hours to get the result?
I don't want to sound too cocky.
You lay as much smackdown as you want. Like, you go for it if you want, mate.
It's really, after the pairings, it really felt like we had it. We only needed to do the bare minimum to execute the plan that we've learned throughout the last year of preparation, months of preparation to the event, the testing that we've done in the previous weeks, and what we've learned at the event itself. It just needed to be executed to the Polish standard.
Yeah, to the data. You just produce the number you gave on the data, and everything was going to be okay. And gotta say,
basically,
okay,
I can tell about my matchup. How did it look like? So G-Steel Calcs versus Astra Militarum. I knew that if I go second, it will be 10 up, and if I go first, it will be 15 up. So when not going second, I'm just informed our coaches, okay, it will be 10 up because I lost 2 roll-offs for infiltration and for first turn, and at the other tables were played the same way. So we just delivered information to coaches. We got coaches did live estimation of points, and everything went smoothly. No surprises here, just according to the plan and our estimation.
Yeah, it really felt like they sacrificed a lot to get. This is something that I've mentioned previously, that the pairings of your Eldari might actually be difficult in a sense, right? Because you're trying to get the best matchup possible for them to score big. And it felt a little bit like they sacrificed a lot during the process to position their Eldar for the best win. And where their Eldar did perform amazingly, scoring a 17 against our Dark Angels, as I've said previously, it felt like they sacrificed a lot of armies
to get that. Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. So that is the event. That is all 7 rounds of the Polish run to the, I guess, the first place in 9 years. Now, there is one, we're going to talk about 2 topics. I was going to talk about what you would do differently and why, but you've already mentioned a lot of that. There's one man I have not mentioned very much yet, and his list we did not go into. So there is a term in this world, so in our game, called having a named player, somebody who has a name, somebody who has a bit of a panache about them or a bit of something. And I think the whole world has done this gentleman a disservice, and it's time to remedy it. There's a man named Jacob who plays for Team Poland, or he goes by the pseudonym Skark as his kind of nickname. He has played in every single ETC or WTC. ETC was what the WTC used to be called. He's played in every single one, to my knowledge. Is that correct, boys?
That is very much correct.
So he has been good enough over, 15 years? 14 years? 15 years?
Something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To play,
that's a good estimate.
to play for Team Poland, the best, most winning nation at this level, at the international level of 40K. He has been good enough to play for that team every single year that he has run for 15, 16 years, whatever it is years. This guy has the most number one places. He has more number one places than most other countries have. Just him. This guy is an absolute legend of the community. I believe he is the GOAT of international level 40K, if not one of the best players of all time or the best player of all time. And it is about time the rest of the world knew about this guy. He is a behemoth, a juggernaut, and he is one of a kind. Can you guys tell me a little bit about Skark? Because I have this joke in my head that and this is a way that I look at pairings. The most basic way that you can do pairings is to just pair for the opponent. Pair for the list versus list. And then it's list versus list with table pick, list versus list with table pick plus mission, list versus list with table pick, mission, and then player skill. At this event, Skark was playing Astra Militarum, but everyone treated him like he was another Eldar player and was just like, we're not going to bother. Here's a 20 because he is and just has that level of legacy in the game. Tell me about this guy. What can you guys tell me about Skark? What can you tell people at home about Skark? Because it's about freaking time this guy came and was recognized by the world.
So, Skark has been playing the game longer than I live. And that is not actually a hyperbole. That is very much a factual truth. He, as you've mentioned, has been to every single ETC. He has multiple titles. He's been attending Polish GTs for the past 20-something years. He has a very certain playstyle that everybody who plays him will know by now. He has a very mathematical style of playing the game. He loves his gun lines, basically. He is the without a doubt, 100% the best SFA SAF player, which would be Shooting Army from Hell player.
Yep.
An old acronym of an army like MSU. An army that just is supposed to get you off the board as quickly as possible using shooting units. And this year has proven, once again, that he's the best at it, period. As a team captain, I was very much not convinced at first that Guard is the correct pick for the team. Guard has not been putting international results. It hasn't been particularly strong in the meta for any reason. And still, he just kept going with his list idea and found the build that literally won WTC. And I think treating him as another Eldari player is an understatement because none of the Eldari has scored so highly as that one Guard list.
But I guess it was more of an analogy, and you're absolutely right. It was like, we're not going to try and beat this player because it's Skark and there's no point. We're just going to give them the smallest win we can and move on. That is just power. Yeah. That is just power in your lineup. Absolutely sheer intimidation. Like, it doesn't matter what we try and do to this guy. He's going to probably win. So let's not bother and try and get the points elsewhere. Is that everything I've said? Is that fair to say, Majson?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I agree totally with Pumba here. Skark currently is a legend in our community and international community. For example, when I was at French Wargame Day tournament, I just had some discussions, and one guy from France just asked me how Skark is doing, because he called him the best list designer in the entire 40K community. And basically, this is something that I could just sign up and I agree 100% that Skark designs really, really good lists. When in the current metagame, there is a shooting list, a gunline list that can decimate anything. Skark will find out this list, playtest it, and then improve it, because this is not the first version of the list. For a month, the list improved on daily basis. He found out, he identified problems of the first iteration, found something in the codex index that solves it, and then introduced it that in the list. That's why we have hellhounds. That's why we have this small rapier carriers with last cannons. That it was all on purpose, just to make this list perfect. Then we just use that as a pairing, guys. We just use that weapon to win the games.
Yeah, absolutely savage.
I must also add one thing to that. It is just amazing how humble Skark is. One of the reasons that he's always taken into the team, I feel like, is just that he's unbreakable. He sometimes, you would not believe that, but every single 40k player sometimes loses games. And after he loses a game, even at this international level, there's no other person that you would rather have in that place, because his lack of ego in that moment, his acceptance of a mistake is like none other. He is just the fundament on which you can build a team. His experience in the format, in playing internationally, is invaluable in the sense that it binds the team together. If you have newcomers to the team that may not be used to the stress, to what actually happens in your head after, for example, you lose a one matchup, Skark is the one that you can always rely on coming back after such situation, and it just makes the team sing in that sense.
Absolutely crazy, absolutely wonderful. And it's just so funny that he presents as just a regular nerd. He looks like your uncle. It looks like everyone's got an uncle who probably looks like Skark.
He is the Polish grandpa.
He is. It's so funny.
He's the grandpa of the team. We always call him that.
I love it so much. All right, so this win was very important for Team Poland. Like I said, it's the first time Poland has come first in 9 years. Poland is world over at the international level regarded as the most successful, most powerful, strongest international 40k nation. So I just need to point out, Poland's regarded as the best in the world and as the measuring stick. Usually, if you have to win the WTC, you are either Poland or you beat Poland, and that's usually how it works. So, how much does this mean to the nation at home? How much does this mean to Poland?
I think it means the world.
Mm.
Legitimately, the response that we've had from everyone at home has been phenomenal. It kind of feels like it's. You say that when the UK, when England, goes to the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup or whatever, that it's going home. For this, it felt like it went home finally for us. It's always felt like we were the gatekeeper nation, the one that everybody's scared of, and everybody needs to defeat on the way to the top. But we've just missed the mark slightly so many times by the smallest possible margin. And the fact that we finally made it is massive. There have been people that have been in the team 6-7 times. Take Duda, who is a legend. And I think he's been his 7th ETC/WTC. And this was his first win.
Wow. And it just goes to show just how hard one of these is to win. There is a lot to be said for the fact that in every year, if a team is thinking that they might have a chance at a podium or winning the event, they will prepare for everyone in their pod and Poland. And that's usually how it goes. Because if you have a plan for Poland, usually you have a plan for America, USA, France, Germany, Spain, the other core, Sweden now as well, the other core powerhouse nation that you usually expect to see at the top of the pile year in, year out. But you always prep for Poland, because if you can't beat Poland, you can't win the event. And yeah, it seems like there was a bit of like, you are the ultimate gatekeeper or the kingmaker. Like, Poland is the team that by beating you become the champion. And it's beautiful to see you guys retake that story, retake control of the narrative and be like, we're still Poland. We'll still kick your ass. And there's no taking the shine off us, regardless of how much prep you do. So, Majson, we're going to finish the episode. We're going to wrap it up. It's been my great honor again to have both of you on for this show. It's really kind of nice to have you guys on back, because it was the same too. Yeah, back-to-back years. It's really kind of lovely. But Majson, straight off the cuff, are you going to play again next year, or do you intend to?
Yeah, WTC experience is so addicting. I wouldn't drop 40k. I was really tired and kind of disappointed with New Edition before the event, but now I'm just full of energy and I'm back to my work. I'm going to tournaments, and next year we need to defend the title.
That's right. So back-to-back has only ever happened once before, and it was done by Poland. The only ever
that was done by Germany.
Oh, apologies.
Exactly.
Guys. It was done by Germany.
I need to give the Germans what they deserve. It was done by Germany.
That's right.
So our target is 3 times in a row.
No one. Wow! No one has ever done it, and it could possibly never be done again. But I wish us all the luck. Pumba, are you going for captain again?
That's a very difficult question to ask.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot.
a good 3 days after the event has concluded.
All I'm pretty much asking was has being captain broken you?
Yes, I'm gonna be honest. It was just an incredible amount of work.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't know what to do with the all of the time I've regained from my life.
Yeah.
After the event has concluded,
this is
it's all been absolutely worth it.
Amazing
at the end. But I also now very much realize how much work it requires.
Yeah.
And for now, I will not make the decision just yet. I have some time to prepare for that.
And please, if you are a member of a team, please thank your captain, because they do as much effort as you, plus 30%. And, there's only one winning captain. So please thank your captains, because they work harder for usually no extra. So yeah, please get behind them. We need them. We need our team. We need our team leaders. On that note, we will sign off and we will be done. Hopefully you boys are enjoying the glory. Hopefully there's a parade in Warsaw in your honor.
Truly, that is exactly how Warhammer works in Poland.
100%. That's how it is everywhere, right? We're all honored as community heroes. But anyway, thank you so much for your effort, guys. Thank you for the phenomenal story and memories you have given to the world. Hopefully, you guys watch back some of the years from now. You guys can watch back the videos and be like, "Ha, we did that stuff." And still be extremely proud of yourselves. Majson, you're an absolute champion. Thanks for coming on. Pumba, you're an absolute champion. Thanks for coming on. Anything you guys would like to mention? Any people out there you would like to thank or sing out or sign off by saying thank you to? Please do so.
So, I would like to thank you. Great thanks sent to our whole team, including coaches, including media guy. Everyone did their best, and those really great effort, and our team worked like a single organism from the start, from the beginning of the tournament, even before the tournament in preparation stage to the just final matchups against England. Everyone did their best, and great thanks also as a team selector to all of the players, all of the coaches. They did amazing job. And I'm proud that I worked with them, basically.
Hell yeah. Pumba.
Yeah, I definitely second what Majson said. I could wax poetics for literally hours about every single member of the team and what they've achieved. I want to do two special mentions. First one is actually a huge congratulations to my friend Anthony Vanilla, who I felt has put on incredible amounts of work to improving Team USA as an organization. I really felt this tournament that they have become completely reformed as a team. They now felt like a real WTC team coming to fight us on an equal level. They have been amazing to play. As I've said, they've outpaired us. They were prepared on the same level, and it could have been easily them on the top. So I know how much that friend of mine, has put on, how much work he has put on to do that and achieve that. So huge congratulations to him. And the second one is actually Typhus, who was not part of the team this year. He was last year's captain. He is the person that I've learned the most from in the whole 40K scene. He has basically taught me everything I know about leading a national team and preparing for the event. He has been great help to me. He has been an inspiration, and he laid the foundation for this year's success a year ago.
Amazing.
And we are glad that we could actually achieve what he has started.
Brilliant and great shout outs. I wanted to shout out Typhus as well. He helped me a lot with the stream, and he was giving me rolling updates, and seeing him break down and cry when the last results were coming through was legitimately beautiful to see. And it was a wonderful moment to know that people who weren't part of the team get to share in some of the success, people, the support staff, the people who've helped you get there. Because, I mean, winning a WTC, even, like I just said, even for Team freaking Poland, the best in the world, took 9 years to put together, to build up, to establish, to develop the players, the culture, etc. So it takes a lot of hands, a lot of brains, and a lot of work to accomplish. Thank you so much for coming on, boys. It was my great honor to have you on again, and I hope I will always be a champion for getting Polish WTC and Polish 40K recognized on the world stage, because it's been a crime for a long time. Everyone hears about how good Poland is, but no one actually talks to Poland about it, or less until recently. I know when I was first started playing in 2015, 2016, everyone always talked behind closed hands the Polish will do this to you, the Polish will do that to you. And no one really knew the players, knew the personalities, knew the people and the faces and the stories and the legacies. And I think it's really important that we capture these things for everyone at home. So thank you very much for bringing those to my show. It's been my absolute pleasure, and good luck with the 2024 campaign after many months of rest and recuperation.
Yeah, we are talking 2 weeks maximum. Let's be honest.
Literally. Team selection starts in 2 hours, boys. Chop, chop, let's go.
It feels like that. But thank you very much, Adam, for inviting us. Thank you very much for making WTC what it is to some extent, for being its ambassador. And thank you so much for recognizing this small country in the middle of Europe as well, and just actually televising us. And I feel a big part of our community is also very thankful for what you're doing.
No problems, man. I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's only the recognition you guys have earned and deserve. So good night, guys. Take care. We'll see you on part 2 for a WTC unpack with Jeremy Martino and answering your lovely patron questions. Go over to Team Poland 40K over on Facebook and just check out some of the hilarious antics and photos of the boys' adventures. And hopefully you guys will enjoy. Pumba, Majson, you guys are champions. I'll see you next year.
Goodbye, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.